If you can hear my voice, you are hearing something that shouldn't be on the air. My name is Russ Delgado. I am not a broadcaster. I want that clear from the first second, because in the next 2 days, some of you are going to start trusting this voice. And you should know exactly what it's worth. I fix transmitters. I climb the tower. I swap the tubes. I keep the thing that carries other people's voices from catching fire. That's the whole of it. The man whose job it is to talk into this microphone left this building yesterday morning and did not come back. So it's me, a maintenance engineer, 41 years old, sitting in a chair that isn't mine, in a concrete room at the base of a 900-foot antenna, 40 miles from the nearest anything. In the hills above a county I'd have to look up on a map to name for you. The reason I'm talking is simple. The equipment works. I checked it. The problem was never the equipment. For 2 days this frequency has been dead air, not silence, but that soft ocean hiss that means the carrier's up and nobody's speaking into it. I've been listening to that hiss since Tuesday, and about an hour ago I realized something that made me sit down in this chair and turn the microphone on. The hiss is the safest sound in the world right now. As long as you hear it, nobody's screaming into it. I'd like to keep it that way, but I don't think I get to. Let me tell you what I know. Here is what I know, and I'm going to keep this list short because the list of things I don't know is going to eat the rest of the night. 2 days ago, sometime before dawn on Tuesday, the dead came back. Not everywhere at once, not like a movie. It started somewhere east and it moved, town by town, the way weather moves, and it reached us here in the hills late Tuesday afternoon. I know that because I watched it happen from 400 feet up a steel tower with a wrench in my hand and no way to hurry down. I know they don't run. Whatever they are now, whatever's moving them, it isn't fast. It's patient. A slow, steady drift, like water finding the low ground. I know they don't make noise. That's the part nobody warns you about. You picture screaming. There's no screaming. They come across a field and the only sound is their weight in the grass. I know the county radio station where I'm sitting has a fence, a locked steel door, and thick block walls, because the FCC makes you build these places like bunkers, so lightning doesn't kill the equipment. That's why I'm alive. Not planning, concrete. And I know one more thing, and this is the thing I turned the microphone on to say. They are coming toward the tower. Not toward the town, most of which is behind me and lower. Toward the light on top of this antenna, and toward the low hum this building makes. The hum you can feel in your teeth when the transmitter's running at full power. I've been watching them collect at the fence line for the last 3 hours. Slowly, from every direction. There's maybe 60 of them now, where at noon there were 4. I don't know why. I have a guess. My guess frightens me more than not knowing did. I'll get to it. First, I need to tell you how the hiss started. Tuesday morning I was already awake, because a transmitter engineer's whole life is 4 a.m. We'd had a lightning hit Sunday that cooked a filter on the main rig, and the station was running at half power off the backup, which is a thing management hates because half power means half the county can't hear the ballgame. So I drove up Tuesday before dawn to make the swap. 40 minutes of dark road, deer eyes in the headlights, coffee going cold in the cup holder. Ordinary. I want you to hold on to ordinary for a second, because it's the last of it. The overnight guy, his name was Kessler. He ran the automation and read the 3 a.m. weather. Kessler was in the booth when I got there. He looked wrong. Gray. He told me the phones had been ringing off the hook since 2, and he'd stopped answering because the callers weren't making sense. People saying their neighbors were standing in the yard. People saying somebody who died was at the door. He'd figured it for a hoax, some coordinated prank, kids with a group chat. Then he showed me the wire feed on his monitor, the national bulletins, and they were not saying prank. They were saying a word I'm not going to repeat the way they repeated it, because they were guessing. And their guess was the wrong shape. They were reaching for zombie, an outbreak, an infection, and none of it fit. Because there's no bite here, no fever, no blood. There's just people who were dead, and now are not lying down. I told Kessler to lock the front door. He laughed, the way you laugh at a man overreacting. Then a car came up the access road, way too slow, and stopped crooked in the lot. And a woman got out and stood there facing the building, and did not move, and did not come closer. And Kessler stopped laughing. That woman is still in the lot. 2 days later, she has not moved from that spot. That was the first one. I didn't understand yet what she was waiting for. The reason I was on the tower when it got bad is stupid. And I need you to hear how stupid, because everything that's happened to me since happened because of a maintenance schedule. The filter swap needed a part off the antenna combiner up top. Standard climb, I'd done it 100 times. Kessler was rattled, but the equipment doesn't care about the news. And if we lost the backup rig too, we lost the emergency alert system for the whole county, the actual sirens, the actual warnings. And on the one morning that mattered, I did not want to be the guy who let the county go dark. So I clipped in and I climbed. It takes 40 minutes to climb this thing carefully. And you climb it carefully, or you don't climb it again. I was maybe 300 feet up, harness biting my thighs. Wind pushing the whole structure in that slow sway they never tell you about. When I looked out at the valley, and I saw them coming, from the town, from the 2 farms east, from the county road, small figures, unhurried, all moving in the same direction, toward me, toward the tower. It looked, from up there, like iron filings turning toward a magnet. That's the only way I can describe it. Everything loose in that valley was slowly orienting toward the one tall lit thing on the hill. I got on the radio clipped to my chest, and I called down to Kessler. He didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. Just that soft hiss. And that's when the hiss started. And that's when I understood I was going to be up there a while. Because there was no longer anyone below me I wanted to climb down to. I want to tell you about the climb down, because it's the closest I've ever come to just letting go of a steel rung on purpose. And I need you to understand it wasn't fear. It was arithmetic. Here's the arithmetic. I'm 300 feet up. It takes 40 minutes to climb down safely. In those 40 minutes, the figures I can see in the valley are going to keep converging on the base of the tower, which is also the base of the building, which is the only door I can go through. I am, in the most literal sense, climbing down into the thing everyone else is walking toward. You do the math on every rung. That's what that climb was. A math problem where the answer kept getting worse. I lost radio contact with Kessler at 300 feet. By 200, I could hear the building's hum without the radio. That deep 60 hertz drone the transmitter throws when it's cooking full power, the sound that lives in the concrete. By 150, I could see the lot clearly, and I could count. 11 of them then, standing, facing the building. Not the door of the building, the walls, like they could feel the hum through the block the same way I could feel it through the steel. The woman from the first car was still in her spot. A man in a mail carrier's uniform stood by the fence with his hands at his sides. There was a kid. I'm not going to describe the kid. I'm going to keep some things off this broadcast because some of you listening tonight are alone and scared, and you don't need my inventory of the worst things I saw. You've got your own. At 80 feet, I stopped, because I finally let myself notice the pattern I'd been refusing to notice since the top. They weren't looking up at me. I was the highest, loudest, most obvious thing on that hill, the man on a tower, and not one of them had turned a face upward. They faced the building. They faced the hum. Whatever pulls them, it isn't sight, and it isn't warm bodies, or they'd have wanted me first. It's the machine. It's the signal. It's the thing I spent my whole life keeping alive. I hung there in the harness at 80 feet, and I laughed. One bad laugh. Because I understood that the safest place on that hill was the exact place I was standing on this planet to protect. I made it inside. I'm not going to make a story out of the last 80 feet and the sprint across the lot, because you can already feel it. And drawing it out would be a lie about how it went. It went fast and ugly, and I got the steel door shut and bolted behind me, and I stood with my back against it, shaking for about a minute. They didn't chase, that's the thing. I ran right past 3 of them close enough to touch, and they turned slowly, that awful slowness, but they didn't lunge. They turned toward the door I'd come through, and then, when I was inside and it was shut, they turned back toward the walls, toward the hum. Kessler was in the booth. He was sitting in the chair I'm sitting in now. And at first, I thought for one whole terrible second, I let myself think that he'd just fallen asleep. He hadn't. I checked. I'm not going to tell you what I checked or what I found. I'll tell you that he was gone before I came down, and that he went from something ordinary and human, a heart that just stopped in a locked room, and not from anything that came through the door. And I'll tell you the part that matters for the rest of this broadcast, the part I've turned over 1,000 times in the last 2 days. Kessler did not get up. He died in this building at the source of the hum, closer to the transmitter than any of the ones outside, and he stayed down. He is still down. I moved him to the back room, and I said the only words I could remember, and I shut that door too. So it isn't everyone. It isn't automatic. Whatever raised the ones in the lot did not raise the man who was closest to the machine. That contradiction has kept me up for 2 days, and I still can't resolve it. And I'm telling you about it anyway, because I promised myself when I turned this microphone on that I would not hand you clean answers I don't have. I have the hiss. I have the hum. And now, apparently, I have a voice. Let me tell you why I finally used it. I used it because of what I heard on the scanner. This building has a scanner, a wideband receiver that lets you listen across the emergency bands, the fire and police and the county repeaters, so you know when to fire the alert tones. I turned it on Tuesday night out of the same instinct that makes you check a phone with no signal. And for a day, it was mostly what you'd expect. Fragments. A sheriff's deputy somewhere calling for backup that wasn't coming. A hospital net running a mass casualty protocol until the voices on it thinned out and stopped. Then, sometime Wednesday, the fragments organized. A voice came up on one of the state frequencies, calm and clear and professional, identifying itself as an emergency coordination authority. It gave instructions. Stay in your homes. Do not attempt to move the affected. Await organized collection. And it gave a number to tune to this band, the commercial broadcast band for continuous updates. That's how I know some of you are here. That's how I know I'm not talking into a dead room. Because that voice, the calm one, the one that sounds like it knows what it's doing, has been telling everyone within range to turn their radios on and wait. And I have spent the last several hours listening to that calm voice and getting more afraid of it than I am of the ones in the lot. Because here's what the calm voice keeps saying, in different words each time, that the affected are drawn to sound, to transmission, to broadcast. That the safest thing you can do is turn everything off, every radio, every phone, every generator, and go completely dark and completely silent and wait to be collected. And that is half true. I know it's half true because I watched 60 of them walk toward this tower for the hum. The calm voice is right about what draws them. But if it's right, then why is the calm voice on the air at all? Why is the one authority still transmitting the one signal it says will get you killed and telling every frightened person in the state to tune their radio to a broadcast band and listen? You don't call people to a fire and tell them the fire is safe, unless you want them gathered. I sat with that for an hour. Then I turned this microphone on. The station phone still works. That surprised me. The lines out here run underground from a junction box down the hill, and the exchange has battery backup. And so for reasons that have nothing to do with anybody's plan, this concrete bunker on a hill can still take a phone call. The night host used to run a call-in show. The console's still wired for it. It took me 20 minutes to remember how to put a caller on the air. The first call came in less than a minute after I said the number out loud. It was a woman named Donna, and she was whispering. And the first thing she said was, "You're not the other station. You don't sound like the other station." I told her I wasn't. I told her exactly what I was, the engineer, not the announcer, alone in the building, no more official than she was. And she started to cry, quietly, with her hand over the phone. And she said, "Thank you." And I asked her why. And she said, "Because the other one never takes calls. It just talks. It just tells us to be quiet and wait. I've been trying to reach a person for 2 days." Dana was in a basement in a town I won't name, with her 2 kids and her elderly father. And they'd done exactly what the calm voice said. Radio off, lights off, silent, waiting to be collected. And nobody had come to collect them. And the thing was, she could hear the affected in the street above her. And they were not stopping at the silent houses. "They walk past us," she said. "We're quiet," like they said, and they walk right past. They're all going the same way, down toward there's a cell tower down at the end of our road, on the water plant. They're all going to the tower. There it was again. The tower, the signal, from a woman who'd never seen this hill and never heard my transmitter hum. I asked her the question I most needed answered and least wanted to. I asked if being quiet had kept anyone safe in her town that she knew of. Long pause, then, "The people who went quiet are alive, but nobody's coming for us, and the food's almost gone, and my dad's medicine is gone. So we're going to be alive right up until we're not, and there's no one on the other end of the plan." That's when I understood what the calm voice actually was. It wasn't lying about how to survive tonight. It was lying about tomorrow. It was a plan to make everyone hold perfectly still in the dark until the ordinary problems, the medicine, the water, the food, the cold, finish the job the dead started. Let me try to say the shape of it plainly, while I still can, because I don't know how long I have coherent. The dead are drawn to broadcast, not to us, not to warm blood or heartbeat or breath. I proved that at 80 feet on a tower with 60 of them below me who never once looked up. They're drawn to transmission, to the carrier hum of a live antenna, to cell sites, radio towers, anything throwing structured signal into the air. That's why they collect at towers. That's why the calm voice, which broadcasts constantly, has whatever's left of the state slowly walking toward whatever building it's transmitting from. And someone figured that out fast, faster than they should have been able to. Within a day, there was a calm, coordinated professional voice on the emergency net, telling everyone to go dark and go silent and wait for collection. which does two things at once. It stops the affected from swarming the population, because the population goes quiet. And it stops the population from organizing, from calling each other, from pooling food and medicine and getting out, because the population goes quiet. I don't think the calm voice is evil. I want to be careful here, because it's easy, at 4 in the morning in a bunker, to build a villain. I think the calm voice is a real authority, in a real bunker like mine, that did the math I did and reached a colder answer. That the affected can't be stopped, only starved of the signal that draws them. That the humane thing, the only workable thing, is to make everyone hold still and quiet until it burns out, and to accept that a lot of the quiet ones won't make it, and to say soothing words over that arithmetic so nobody panics on the way down. I understand that math. I climbed a tower doing that math on every rung. But there's a hole in it, and the hole is Dana in her basement, alive and quiet and out of medicine, with 2 kids and no one coming. The plan keeps you alive tonight and forgets about you by Friday. And the people running it get to call that a rescue because they never have to hear your voice on the way out. I can hear your voice. So here's what this broadcast is now. This is the frequency that takes calls. This is the one signal in the dark that talks back. I know exactly what that makes me. It makes me a beacon. It makes this hill the thing they walk toward. I've decided that's a trade I'll make. Let me tell you why. The trade is this, and I did the arithmetic the way I do all my arithmetic, slow and out loud and checking the answer twice. If I stay silent, I stay safe. The hum from this transmitter is enough to hold the 60 at the fence, but the fence holds, the door holds, the walls are blocked. And if I cut power, I go dark and cold, and the ones outside might even drift away towards some louder source. I could sit here in the dark with Kessler's body in the back room and the scanner off, and I could probably last a week on the vending machines and the water heater. Silent, alive, alone, or I stay on the air. If I stay on the air, I am the loudest thing in 3 counties. This antenna, at full power, reaches farther than any cell site, any repeater, any calm voice in any bunker. If the dead are drawn to signal, then every hour I broadcast, more of them turn toward this hill and walk. I am, by talking to you, calling them to my door. I know that. I've watched the fence line count go from 4 to 60 since Tuesday, and I know that some of that 60 is me. But here's the other half of the arithmetic. This antenna, at full power, reaches farther than the calm voice. I can hear the calm voice on the scanner clear as day, which means my signal, put out from the same kind of transmitter but a taller tower, lands in every basement and cellar and locked bedroom, where a frightened person turned their radio on, because an authority told them to wait. Dana found me by accident. How many more are one dial twist away? The calm voice told them to hold still until the food runs out. I can tell them to move. I can tell them the affected walk past the quiet houses, so being quiet buys you the road. I can tell them the tower's the trap, so walk away from every tower, not toward the collection points. I can put them on the air so they can find each other, so Dana in her basement can hear that there's a family 6 streets over with insulin and no formula. And she's got formula and no insulin, and the affected won't chase them if they keep it slow and quiet on the way. I can turn the one thing that draws the dead into the one thing that moves the living. The cost is that I become the brightest lure on the map. And everything with no pulse in this half of the state slowly, patiently, silently walks toward the sound of my voice. I'm okay with that. Let's get to work. I need you to help me build a map, and I need you to do it in a way that keeps you alive. So listen to the rules before you touch a phone. Do not call me from a house that's already quiet and already safe, unless you have information. Every call lights you up for a few seconds, a ringing phone, a raised voice, and I will not spend your safety on a hello. If you're safe and quiet and holding, stay safe and quiet and holding. And just listen. Listening costs you nothing. A radio receiving doesn't transmit. That's the one gift of this whole nightmare. You can hear me without the dead ever hearing you. But if you have information where they're gathering, where the roads are clear, where there's medicine, water, a working vehicle, a group forming, call it in fast and hang up faster. 20 seconds, fact and out. I'll hold it. I'll put it on the air. I'll build the map. The calls have been coming steady for an hour now, and here's the map so far. They gather at towers. Every caller confirms it. Cell sites, radio masts, the big power substations that hum. If you can see a tower from your window, you are looking at where they are and where you must never go. The collection points the calm voice keeps naming. I've cross-checked 4 of them against callers. Now the collection points are at towers. I'm going to say that again, slowly, because it's the most important thing I've said tonight. The places you are being told to go to be rescued are the places the dead are walking to. I am not telling you the people who set up those points meant that. I'm telling you that's where they are. They walk past the quiet, confirmed by 9 callers now, independently, people who've watched them from basements and attics and behind curtains. A silent, dark, still house is not interesting to them. They drift past it toward the hum. This is real, and you can trust it, and it is the thing keeping most of you alive right now. They are slow. Nobody has reported one that runs. Nobody. If you have to move, move slow and quiet, on foot, away from towers, and you can walk right through a field of them if you do not make yourself a signal. A man named Robert called from a farm and told me he walked half a mile through them at dusk, carrying his dog, and neither of them made a sound, and neither of them was touched. Robert is the bravest man I've talked to tonight, and I hope his phone's still charged. That's the map. Towers are death. Quiet is life. Slow is survival. And the one loud voice you can trust is the one telling you to run away from it. Which is me, which is a problem. Let me tell you what's happening at my fence. The fence line count is 112. I've been going out to the booth window every 20 minutes to count. And I want to give you the numbers honestly because the numbers are the story now. 4 at noon Tuesday. 60 when I turn the mic on. 112 now, and I've lost the clock, call it the deep middle of the night. Hour 30-something since the dead rose. They came for the hum. Now they're coming for me. I can see it in the way they're arranged. When it was just the transmitter's drone, they faced the walls, evenly, all around. Because the hum comes from everywhere the concrete touches. But since I started talking, since the antenna's been carrying my actual voice at full modulation, which is a stronger, more structured signal than an idle carrier, they've started to orient. Toward the tower base, toward the feed line, toward, if I'm honest, this room, where the microphone is, where the signal is born. There's a man at the front of them now, right against the chain link, closer than the rest. He's wearing a county utility vest. He might have worked on these very lines. His hands are through the fence, not grabbing, not pulling, just resting there. Palms open, the way you'd hold your hands out to a fire. Feeling the signal. And every time I speak, the ones behind him press forward a few inches, slow as a tide coming up a beach, and the fence, which was built to keep out deer and vandals, is starting to lean. I've done the load math. I do everything as load math. A chain link fence on steel posts set in concrete will hold a lot of static weight and almost no dynamic weight. These aren't pushing hard. They don't push hard, that's not what they do. But 112 bodies leaning, patient, all night is not a dynamic load. It's a static one. And static loads are exactly what a fence is worst at, when the number keeps climbing. I think the fence has hours, not days. After the fence, there's the lot. And after the lot, there's the steel door. And the steel door I trust. The steel door is the one thing in this building rated for what's about to lean on it. I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to keep building the map. But I wanted you to know the shape of my night, so that when my voice changes, you'll know why. The calm voice knows I'm here. I found out 10 minutes ago. I had the scanner running low under my own broadcast, the way you keep one ear on a monitor. And the calm voice, mid-sentence in its loop about staying dark and awaiting collection, stopped. Just stopped. A silence on the state net that hadn't happened in 2 days. And then it came back. And it was the same calm voice, the same professional cadence. But it was talking to me. It didn't use my name. It doesn't know my name. It said, "We are aware of an unauthorized broadcast on the commercial band originating from the Western repeater sites. We advise all listeners to disregard it. The individual operating this broadcast is untrained, unauthorized, and is endangering lives by encouraging movement and drawing the affected toward populated areas. Remain in place, remain silent. Await collection. Do not act on unauthorized instructions." I have to hand it to them. It's good. It's better than good. Every word of it is technically defensible. I am untrained. I am unauthorized. I am, without question, drawing the affected. You've heard me admit it. My fence is proof of it. And do not act on unauthorized instructions is the kind of sentence that saved 1,000 lives in 1,000 real emergencies. Which is exactly why it's the perfect thing to say when the authorized instruction is to hold still and starve. So let me answer, and then we'll get back to the map. Because I don't want to spend your night on a fight between two men in two bunkers. To whoever's running the calm voice, I believe you're real. I believe you did the same math I did and got to a place where the only survivable plan is stillness and silence and slow attrition. And I believe you tell yourself soothing words over that because someone has to, and it might as well be someone with a steady voice. I don't even think you're wrong about the physics. You're right. Signal draws them. Silence saves you. You're just wrong about people. You think the plan fails if they panic. I think the plan fails if they stay quiet. Because staying quiet, in your version, means holding still with no one coming until the ordinary things kill you. And you get to call that a rescue because you never took the call. I take the calls, so here's what I'll do. I'll keep drawing them to me. I'll be the loud thing so the rest of them can be quiet things. And you keep telling everyone to hold still. And between us, maybe more people live than either plan alone. Back to the map. Who's got a road that's clear? For the last 2 hours, we've been building something. You and I. And I want to describe it to you, because I think it might be the only thing worth what tonight is costing. We've built a corridor. Here's how it happened. A caller named Marcus, a long-haul driver stuck at a truck stop off the interstate, called in with a working rig and a full tank and no idea where to point it. And a caller named Ellen, 40 miles from Marcus, called in with a church basement holding 19 people, 6 of them kids, and enough water and no way out. And I've got a scanner and a tall antenna and a map I've been building call by call, and I could actually see, on the county map spread across this console, a line between Marcus and Ellen that didn't pass a single tower. Not one. A road that ran through farmland, low ground, no cell sites, no substations, nothing humming. A dead signal corridor. The one place in the county the affected have no reason to gather, because there's nothing there to draw them. So I talked Marcus down it, turn by turn, on the air, in real time, with Ellen's people listening on a radio in the church basement so they'd know when to be ready. Marcus killed his CB, killed his phone after each check-in, ran dark and quiet down a farm road at 15 miles an hour with his lights off and the moon doing the work. And 40 minutes ago, he pulled up to that church and 19 people, 6 of them kids, climbed into the back of a produce trailer. And they are right now heading north, away from every tower on my map, toward the one edge of the county where 3 separate callers say the affected thin out to nothing. I'm not telling you this to sound like a hero. I've told you what I am. I'm telling you because I need you to understand the principle, so you can do it without me, because I don't know how much longer I've got a voice. The principle is, the dead map the towers, so the living map the gaps. Every place that draws them is a place you can see on a map before you leave your house. Cell towers, radio masts, power substations, the collection points. Draw a line between where you are and where you're going, and if that line touches one of those, redraw it. There is almost always a redraw. The signal infrastructure of this country was built along highways and hilltops, and the whole quiet interior between those lines is a country the dead have no reason to walk. Go through the quiet interior, slow, dark, in small groups, away from every hum. I built this corridor with a scanner and a map, and your phone calls. When my antenna goes down, and it's going to go down, the fence is at 140 and leaning bad, you'll have to build your own. You already know how now. You just watched me do it. The utility man is through the fence, not over it, through it. The section where he'd had his hands, the section closest to the feed line, gave way about 15 minutes ago, not with a crash, nothing dramatic, just a slow folding. The posts tilting until the top rail came down and a whole span of chain link lay flat in the weeds. And they came across it. Not fast. They don't do fast. But the count on the near side of the lot is climbing now the way it climbed at the fence. And the utility man in his county vest is at the front, and he's maybe 40 feet from the door. I want to describe him to you once, and then I'm going to stop looking out the window, because looking out the window is spending time I need for the map. He's not a monster. I keep waiting to feel the horror movie thing, the revulsion, and it won't come. And I think that's the actual horror. He looks tired. He looks like a man who worked a double and can't remember where he parked. His mouth is a little open, and his eyes are open, and there's nothing in them. No hunger, no rage, no recognition, just that patient orientation. That lean toward the signal, the same lean the whole crowd behind him has. All of them tilted a few degrees toward this room like plants toward a window. He's not coming to hurt me. That's the thing I finally understand, watching him cross that lot. Nothing about them is about hurting me. I'm not prey, I'm a source. They're not a mob at a door. They're moths at a bulb. And the bulb is my voice. And the awful, simple truth is that if I stopped talking right now, this second, and cut the power and went dark, most of them would lose the thread and drift back toward the next loudest thing on the map, which is the calm voice in its bunker with its collection points. That's my out. I've had it the whole time. I can go dark and live. And every time I've reached for the switch, another call comes in someone in a basement, someone on a road, someone who found this frequency by accident and hasn't heard a human voice answer in 2 days. and I put my hand back on the microphone instead. The steel door is rated for this. I keep telling myself the steel door is rated for this. Let me take a couple more calls while it holds. Dana called back. I recognized her voice before she said her name, the whisper. The hand cupped over the phone, the sound of two kids being kept quiet in the dark behind her. But it was different this time. Steadier. And she wasn't calling for help. She was calling to report a corridor. I did what you said, she told me. I got the map. The cell tower at the end of our road. That's why they're all coming down our street, right? Toward the water plant. So I look the other way. West, up the hill, there's nothing up there. No towers. Just the old orchard and the reservoir road. And it's clear, Russ. I sent my neighbor's boy up on a bike an hour ago. Real slow, no lights. And he came back, and there's nothing up there. It's empty. The whole West Hill is empty. She'd built her own corridor, from a basement, with my map and her own eyes and a kid on a bike. Exactly like I told you you could. And then she told me she was leaving. Tonight, before dawn. Her, the kids, her father, the neighbors. 9 people going up the West Hill in the dark, slow and quiet, away from every tower, toward a farmhouse one of them knew that sat in the dead signal gap between 2 counties. And she wasn't calling to ask if she should. She'd decided. She was calling to put the corridor on the air so anyone else on her side of the county could use it too. There's a family on Bright Street with a baby, she said. I'm going to stop and get them. And there's an old man on the corner who won't answer his door. But I'm going to knock anyway. Slow, so I don't so nothing hears. And if he comes, he comes. I asked her, and my voice did a thing here, on the air, that I'm not going to pretend it didn't. I asked her why she was stopping for the family on Bright Street when stopping is the dangerous part. When every extra minute in the open is a minute, the map could be wrong. She said, because the calm voice told us to hold still, and it was killing us slow. And you told us to move. And if I'm going to move, I'm not going to move past a baby to do it. That's when I understood what the corridor is really for. It's not for me. It was never for me. It's the thing I make so that Dana can stop for the family on Bright Street. The map keeps them alive. But the reason to be alive is the part where she knocks on the old man's door. Go, Dana. Slow and quiet. Go. She hung up. I hope that's the last I ever hear of her. And I mean that as the kindest thing I know how to say. They're at the door. I can hear them now without the window. I've kept my word. I haven't looked. I can hear them through the steel. And it's not knocking. It's not pounding. It's worse than that. It's leaning. A slow, collective weight settling against the door and the wall around it. And under it a sound I didn't expect and can't stop hearing. A soft, dry pressure, like a crowd of coats hung too tight in a closet, shifting. Dozens of them, pressed to the concrete, feeling for the signal through the block. The door is rated for this. I've said it a dozen times tonight, and it's still true. This is a broadcast bunker. The FCC and the insurance company and 50 years of lightning strikes made this building to survive things far worse than weight. The door will hold. The door will hold. But the feed line won't. I need to tell you about the feed line because it changes everything. And I only just did the math. The feed line is the cable that carries the signal from this transmitter in this room up the tower to the antenna. It runs out through a port in the wall, up the outside of the structure, into the sky. And they found it. Of course they found it. It's the most concentrated signal in the building, the actual river of transmission running up the outside of the wall. And the utility man, the one who maybe worked these lines, is at it right now. I can hear it. A different sound from the leaning. A pulling. If they pull the feed line, I go off the air. Not because the door failed. Not because they got in. Because the thing drawing them to me is the same thing carrying my voice to you. And they're taking it apart with their hands to get closer to it. And when they finish, this broadcast ends. Which means I have less time than I thought. And it means the choice I've been putting off all night is being made for me by a dead man's hands on a cable. So let me use the time I've got left to say the thing I've been building to. The thing I need every one of you to hear before the line comes down. It's about the switch. It's about what I'm going to do with it. Here's the choice. I've been circling it since the first call, and I'm going to walk straight into it now. There's a master switch in this room. It kills the transmitter. Not the lights, not the phone, not the scanner, the transmitter, the antenna, the signal. If I throw it, this station goes off the air instantly. The hum stops. My voice stops. The river of transmission running up that feed line goes dry. And here's what I've worked out. Over 2 days and 100 phone calls and a fence that went from 4 to a number, I stopped counting. If I throw that switch, they lose me. The thing that draws them is the signal. Not my body, not my breath. I proved that at 80 feet on a tower. They are at my door right now, all of them. The whole county's worth of them leaning on my walls. Because I am the loudest, brightest, most structured signal in this half of the state, louder than the calm voice, louder than any tower, because I built this antenna to be exactly that. I am the biggest bulb. And if I go dark, the biggest bulb in the county switches off. And every moth at my door loses the thread at the same moment. They'll drift, slow, patient, aimless, back out into the dark, orienting toward the next loudest thing on the map, and I've thought hard about whether to say this, and I'm going to say it, which is the calm voice, in its bunker, still transmitting, still telling everyone to hold still and wait. So the switch isn't just my survival. The switch is a redirect. I go dark, and I hand the whole drifting crowd to the one signal that's still up, the one that told everyone to stay put, and if it wants to keep talking, it can keep drawing. That's between it and its own fence. But here's the cost, and I need you to sit in it with me the way I've been sitting in it for 2 days. If I throw that switch, you lose me too. Every basement, every attic, every locked room, every road where someone's got a radio tuned to this frequency, waiting for the next turn, the next corridor, the next voice that answers you all goes silent at the same instant the dead do. I've been your map. The switch that saves my life takes your map off the air. That's the arithmetic. That's the whole thing laid bare. My silence is my survival and your loss. My voice is your map and my death. There's no third answer where I keep talking and the feed line holds and everybody's fine because the utility man's hands are on the cable and the choice is measured in minutes now. So I'm not going to pretend I found a clever way out. I didn't. What I found is a thing I can do first before I throw it. That means the switch doesn't have to be the end of the map. Let me do it. Then I'll throw the switch. Stay with me for 4 more minutes. Here's what you do when I go dark. Write it down if you can. Say it back to the person next to you. This is the last thing I'm going to teach you, and it's the only thing that matters. 1. The dead map the towers. You map the gaps. Everything that draws them is a thing you can see on a map before you leave. Cell towers, radio masts, power substations, the collection points. Draw your line through the country between those things. There is always a redraw. The quiet interior is a place the dead have no reason to walk. Go through the quiet. 2. Silence is a receiver. This is the gift, and I want you to really hear it. A radio that's only listening doesn't transmit. A person who's only quiet doesn't draw. You can hear the whole world, and the whole world can't hear you. So listen more than you speak. Move more than you announce. Let the ones who have to be loud, and be a quiet thing that survives. 3. Someone has to be the bulb. That's the hard one. The corridor only works because something loud draws the crowd away from the quiet. Tonight that was me. When I'm gone, the calm voice will be the loudest thing left. And it'll draw them. And that's fine. That's useful. Let it. But if there ever comes a night when the quiet aren't safe because there's nothing loud to pull the crowd, someone's going to have to decide to be the bulb. Do it on purpose. Do it with a plan. Do it from a place with a steel door and a switch. And know exactly when to throw the switch. 4. Stop for the family on Bright Street. Dana taught me that one tonight, and I'm giving it to you last because it's the point of the other 3. The map keeps you alive. It is not the reason to be alive. The reason is the part where you knock, slow and quiet, on the door of the man who won't answer. And if he comes, he comes. Don't build a corridor so smart it walks you past a baby. That's the calm voice's mistake. Don't make it yours. That's it. That's the whole map. Towers are death. Gaps are life. Silence is a receiver. Someone has to be the bulb. And you stop for Bright Street. 4 rules and a reason. You don't need me for any of it. You never did. You just needed to hear a person say it back to you once, so you'd believe you could. I can hear the feed line going. There's a give in the signal, a flutter you probably can't hear, but I can. The sound of a river starting to run out. So let me do the last thing while I've still got the air to do it in. Here's the last thing. I've had 2 days with this scanner, and a scanner isn't just a receiver, this one transmits. On the emergency bands, low power, but enough. And for the last hour, while I've been talking to you, I've had it programmed and ready on the state frequency, the one the calm voice uses. I can't outshout the calm voice on its own band. Low power against a bunker transmitter, no contest. But I don't need to outshout it. I need to reach the people who trust it, once, with one sentence, at the exact moment they're deciding whether to keep holding still. So when I throw the switch and this station goes dark, I'm going to key the scanner on the state frequency, over the top of the calm voice, low and rough, and only for a few seconds, before they override me. And I'm going to say the only thing worth spending those seconds on. I'm going to say, the collection points are at the towers. The towers are where the dead gather. Move through the gaps. Go now while it's dark. And stop for each other on the way. That's it. That's the redirect. One sentence on the band everyone's been told to trust. From a dying signal to whoever's still holding still and starving politely in the dark because a calm voice told them to. Maybe it reaches 10 people, maybe 100. Maybe the calm voice steps on it in 2 seconds and it reaches no one. I don't get to know. That's the deal with throwing a bottle into the dark, you don't get to know. But I'd rather spend my last seconds on the state band saying move than spend them safe and quiet behind a steel door listening to the calm voice tell everyone to wait. The feed line's almost gone. I can hear the utility man's hands on it. I'm not afraid of him. I keep waiting to be, and I'm not. He's just tired, and he's found the signal, and he's taking it apart to get closer. And in a second, I'm going to take it apart for him. Let me say goodbye, right? Then I throw it. I'm not going to sign off the way a broadcaster would because I'm not one. And I told you that in the first minute, and it's still true in the last. I'm going to tell you what's true instead. You are not being rescued. I'm sorry. Somebody with a calm voice is going to keep telling you help is coming. And collection is coming, and all you have to do is hold still. And it isn't coming. And holding still is the plan that ends with the food gone and no one at the door. I wish I had something kinder that was also true. I looked for 2 days. There isn't one. But you are not helpless. And that's a different thing. And it's the thing I want to leave you with. You have a map now. You know the towers are death and the gaps are life. You know silence is a receiver, and you can hear the whole world without it hearing you. You know how to build a corridor because you watched me build one out of a scanner and a county map and the voices of frightened people who called a number in the dark. You can do all of that without me. Dana did it from a basement. Robert did it walking through a field with his dog. Marcus did it at 15 miles an hour with his lights off. They didn't need a hero. They needed to hear it was possible. Now you've heard it. The feed line's going. I can feel it in the room. The hum's dropping. The pitch is sliding down. The biggest bulb in the county is starting to dim on its own. So I'll beat it to the punch. My name is Russ Delgado. I fix transmitters. Tonight I'm going to break one on purpose, and it's the best work I've ever done. Move through the gaps. Stop for Bright Street. I'm throwing the switch now. The hum is gone. There is no ocean hiss carrier anymore, only the small, closed sounds of a concrete room. When the voice returns, it is off mic, quieter, no longer broadcasting to anyone. This is not transmitted. This is just what happened next. It worked. I can hear them through the door, and they've stopped leaning. I can hear it, the pressure coming off the wall, that dry crowd of coats sound loosening, spreading out. The utility man's hands have come off the feed line. There's nothing running up it anymore. Nothing to hold him. I went to the window. I broke my own rule. One last time, because it doesn't matter now. They're drifting, slow, turning away from the building, from the tower, from me, orienting somewhere east and north toward the next loudest thing on the map. And I know exactly what that is, and I'm not going to feel bad about it, because it's still up, and it's still telling everyone to hold still. And now it's got a whole county's worth of company arriving at its fence to help it reconsider. The scanner's keyed. My one sentence is out on the state band. I don't know who heard it. I'll never know. That's the deal. It's almost light out. Not because dawn fixes anything, it doesn't. They walk in daylight, same as dark. I want to be honest about that to the end. Just because it's morning, and I'm still here, and the room is finally quiet. And for the first time in 2 days, that's a good thing. This is Lost Signal Broadcast. Subscribe and turn on the bell for the next signal. Leave your report below. Until then, keep your radio close.